Hello. So we'll continue with chapter 2. So as you see, the lockdown is also proceeding, but nothing to worry, the syllabus is also proceeding. Okay. So let us learn. Chapter 2, we've already done the kingdom, 5 kingdom classification, and out of that we have in details talked about kingdom Munera. So today we are going to discuss about kingdom Protista. Now this kingdom is very, you can see a bridge between animal, plants, fungus, and Munera. So Munera, you saw they were prokaryotes, that is, they were very primitive. Here you see one step ahead, that is, they are eukaryotes. Now, if you remember, what are eukaryotes? That is, they have a well developed, that is, membrane bound nucleus. Okay, this is another progress from the kingdom Munera, that they do not have the membrane bound nucleus, but kingdom Protista has the membrane bound nucleus in it. Okay, next, it may be animal like. Okay, what do I mean by that? There are few organisms that fall under this group which resembles the animals in its mode of nutrition. That is, they may be heterotrophic. Okay, like amoeba. Okay, now next, there may be few which are plant-like. That is, they have the green plastid chloroplast in it. That is, they have chlorophyll, because of which they can manufacture their own food. So they are autotrophic. Okay, and apart from that, there are few Protista which are fungus-like. That is, they resemble the kingdom Fungi. That is, they are saprophytic. That is, they feed on dead and decaying organisms. So, these all fall under the kingdom Protista. Okay, for animal like, I told you the example of amoeba, which is the simplest animal found. So there today we are going to study about amoeba in details. Okay. To study amoeba in details, first we'll learn the structure of amoeba. Now, amoeba is one of the simplest animals found. Okay, and it is made up of only one single cell. But because it is made up of one cell, do not mistake it to be, not performing the activities as you are. As you eat, amoeba also eats. As you move, amoeba also moves. But they have their own style, swag, isn't it? So let's talk about amoeba today. So the structure of amoeba, it has an irregular shape. So you need not worry, I am drawing on the board. When you are drawing in your notebook, the shape may vary from mine, but it won't be wrong because amoeba has an irregular shape. So draw any irregular shape, right? In the center, there is a nucleus. It has a nucleus and it is surrounded by a cell membrane and it has cytoplasm. The cell membrane is surrounds the cytoplasm. Fine, this is the basic structure of amoeba. Apart from this, amoeba has, some vacuoles. Vacuoles are empty spaces with water in it. It might have a contractile vacuole in it, which is bigger in size when it has a lot of water in it, and once it gives out the water, it again becomes small. They are temporarily placed in the amoeba. It may have these cytoplasmic extensions. The cytoplasmic extensions are called pseudopodia. Okay, what is pseudopodia? Pseudo means false, podia means feet. So amoeba has this peculiar and a very different way of living. That is, it can extend its cytoplasm to any direction and produce a projection in that direction where it is required, and those projections act like their feet or podia. So as it is and once the purpose is over, they are again drawn into it. Okay, drawn back. So therefore, it is a temporary feed that they produce. So they don't have locomotory organ like we have a permanent legs. So these are the false feet or the pseudopodia that they form when they need to. Amoeba is found in ponds, ditches, and other places with stagnating water. So, when there is a standing water accumulated anywhere, you might find amoeba growing there. But we cannot see it. Why? Because it is made up of just one single cell, if you remember. So, it is so small that it can only be seen under a microscope. So, whatever structure we just studied, we can only see this under the microscope. After learning the structure, now we'll talk about how an amoeba moves. So I have already told you that the locomotory organ of amoeba is pseudopodia. Pseudo meaning false, podia meaning feet. So the exact word is pseudopodia. So the locomotory organ of amoeba is pseudopodia. So what are pseudopodias exactly? They are finger-like projections. Okay, they can produce finger-like projections formed by the flowing of cytoplasm into the extension. So I told you amoeba has an irregular shape. So whichever direction it needs to move, it projects, makes a finger-like, produces a finger-like projection, and the cytoplasm in it moves in that direction. Fine, to form a feet-like structure, that is pseudopodia, and helps the organism move in that direction. Now, at one time it can produce quite a many number of pseudopodia, but the direction in which it needs to move, it has the main pseudopodia protruding out in the. Now we learned about pseudopodia. It not only helps the organism in locomotion, it also helps in nutrition. So how does it help the amoeba to gather its food? Let's see. So whenever the amoeba senses food, so what it does it starts protruding. Suppose it senses food here, and this is the amoeba. Okay. This is the amoeba. As it senses food there, what it will do? It will start putting out two pseudopodias on either side of the food particle. So what does it do? It produces two pseudopodias on either side of the food particles. Now these two pseudopodias, when they come together, okay, so what happens when the two pseudopodias come together? the central wall fuses. The wall is dissolved and forms a food vacuole. Okay, a food vacuole is formed. Fine. Now, after the food vacuole is formed, some digestive secretions are given out by the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm sends those digestive juices into the food vacuole. So, because of which this food is broken into simpler substances. The simpler substances are dissolved in the cytoplasm, and whatever undigested food remains, it is thrown out of the body through the cell membrane. Now the food which is dissolved, the simpler food which dissolves in the cytoplasm is used for the growth of amoeba or for producing energy for the amoeba. Clear? So this is how the amoeba gets nutrition. Amoeba excretes through the general body surface by the simple process of diffusion. That is, whatever excreted product is produced is just given out through the cell membrane. There is no special excretory organ present in amoeba. Now, it is seen that ammonia, nitrogenous compound, is the main waste product that is formed in the body of an amoeba. Okay, so the excess water from the body of the amoeba is collected in the contractile vacuole we drew in the structure of amoeba. Now this ammonia is soluble in water, so sometimes ammonia is expelled along with the water from the contractile vacuole. Now the contractile vacuole expands when there is water in it and shrinks when the water is released into the surrounding. There are two ways in which this waste is excreted. One with the help of contractile vacuole and another directly through the cell surface. As I told you, don't take it very lightly that amoeba is unicellular organism, so we won't have much to know about it. Amoeba, you saw how it moves, how it takes nutrition, how it excretes. Now we need to know how it respires. It's a simple process. It takes it is an aquatic organism, as I told you. It takes the oxygen that is dissolved in water, it diffuses into the amoeba cell, and the carbon dioxide which is formed inside the amoeba cell is diffused out of the cell just through the membrane by simple diffusion. So this is how amoeba respires, takes in oxygen and gives out carbon dioxide. Reproduction is a very essential process performed by amoeba. Let's see how it does so. So when conditions are favorable for it, that is, it has the water and the air and everything that it requires for it to survive, then amoeba reproduces by the process of binary fission. Okay, where bi means two, fission means splitting. So what happens in a full grown amoeba? The nucleus splits into two equal halves. Okay, the nucleus divides into two daughter nuclei into two equal halves. Now the whole cellular material divides in such a way that each half has one of the daughter nuclei. Now the whole cellular material now divides into two halves in such a way that each half has a daughter nuclei forming two amoebae. Now these amoebae will will live independently, grow, and they will themselves also reproduce later. So this process of reproduction of amoeba by splitting into two unfavorable conditions is called binary fission. Now, when conditions are unfavorable, then the amoeba reproduces by the process of multiple fission. So when amoeba senses unfavorable condition, maybe the water is not present where it was surviving, it is dry time, then it withdraws on the pseudopodia, okay, and develops a protective covering around it called the cyst. The nucleus inside the amoeba divides into multiple parts. Now, each multiple part of the nucleus, along with some cytoplasm, okay, what happens? They form small amoebulae. When they reach a place where the conditions are favorable, then the cyst, the protective covering that was formed over it, ruptures, and these small amoebulae are thrown out or spreaded. Now they grow into an amoeba and reproduce on their own. So this is how they survive in unfavorable condition or reproduce in unfavorable condition by the formation of a protective covering called cyst. So after learning about kingdom Protista, now we move on to the next kingdom, that is kingdom Fungi. Now these set of organisms have been kept in a separate kingdom because they have their own characteristic features. Okay, so let's see what are the characteristic features of fungi. So first thing, it may be unicellular, it may be multicellular or filamentous. Unicellular means made up of one cell, like yeast. Yeast is a very common fungi. You can see even at home for making, some dishes we need fungi. Which is dissolved in a sugar solution so that they multiply, and then when you add it to the flour and make a dough out of it and make chapatis, they are much more, the dough rises and they are much more softer and a little spongy. It is also used to make bread. You can even make bread using yeast with the flour maida, that is called. Okay, the bakeries also do that, and they are unicellular. Now, multicellular fungi, we eat mushrooms, isn't it? So, they are edible fungi. All fungi are not edible. So, the particular kind of mushroom that we have are edible. What is edible? Edible means something which is fit to be eaten. That is, it will not cause any harm, okay, when eaten. So it is this kind of fungi which is edible. So do not try and taste anything that is around, okay, because you'll find fungi growing in any moist place. Okay, if you leave your leather bags for a long time, don't use it. Fungus will grow on it. If your clothes, good clothes, you fold and keep it, okay, without using it, the fungus might grow on it. Okay, so therefore do not try to put that in your mouth. All fungus are not edible. So the mushroom that we have at home, we've already seen it. They are multicellular. Some fungus has a ribbon-like shape, filamentous shape. Okay, so these kinds of fungus are found. Next, nuclei is distributed throughout the cytoplasm. So when we did the structure of the cell, we found the nucleus was in an animal cell either at the center, or in a plant cell it was to the side because of the large vacuole. But here what is peculiar is that the nucleus here are broken up into small nuclei and it is scattered in the cytoplasm. What is cytoplasm? Cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance which is present in the cell between the cell membrane and the nucleus, if you remember. Okay, so this nuclei are spreaded on the distributed throughout the cytoplasm in a fungus cell. Do not have chlorophyll. So if you have seen a mushroom, you've already seen it is whitish, so therefore it does not have chlorophyll. And as because it does not have chlorophyll, it cannot make their food on their own. They are not autotrophs like plants, which perform photosynthesis and make their food and are said to be autotrophs. Fungus is not autotroph. Why? Because it does not have chlorophyll. Next, it is mostly saprophytes. They are mostly saprophytes, or the mode of nutrition, the way of getting nutrition is saprophytic. What do you mean by that? Saprophytic is a mode of nutrition which is by getting nutrition from actually dead and decaying substances. So the organisms which depend on dead or decaying substances for their nutrition, they are said to be saprophytes. Now the substance that is present in any organism is organic. That is, carbon is present in the compounds, the chemicals that are present in that substance. Fine. So they depend on the dead and decaying organic substance for their nutrition, and so fungus is said to be a saprophyte. The examples of some fungus, that is mushroom, toadstool, bracket fungi, these fungus are seen to be growing on tree trunks. But today we'll study about a fungus which grows on the bread, that is bread mold or rhizopus. Okay, the name itself says on what does it grow. So it grows on the bread, so it is called bread mold. So let us talk more about bread mold. So now we are going to talk in details about this commonly found fungus, bread mold. It is a multicellular fungus. So it's very easily you can see this fungus growing on the bread. So therefore it's got its name. So it can grow in other fruits or vegetables also. It is also called rhizopus. One of its kind is called rhizopus. Now talking about its structure, how does it look like? So you'll be astonished to see how it looks like. Fine. So if you keep a bread, let me draw a piece slice of bread first. Okay. So this is the baked part of the outer layer of the bread, brownish in color. Fine. And this is the bread piece. So if you keep the bread in open in the warm months especially, and don't use it for a long time, then you'll find after a week or 10-15 days the bread has got blue or bluish green spots on it. So this is where the bread mold has grown. Okay, if that you see under the microscope on a slide, then you will be able to see what I'm going to see with the structure. Okay, so suppose the bread mold or the bluish green dots, you see 2 or 3 of them growing on the bread piece. Now to see that structure we need to, it's a very minute structure, so we need to magnify it. You won't be able to see its particulars with bare eyes. Okay, so let's magnify one of them and see how it looks like. So how does it look like? It has a stolon-like hyphae. So it has a hyphae running parallel to the bread, or this is called the substratum, or the food on which it is, base on which it is growing for its food. So the stoloniferous hyphae is seen growing parallel to the bread. Fine. and you find at points root-like structures growing, which are called rhizoids. So this is hyphae. Root-like structures are rhizoids. These rhizoids penetrate into the bread and stick to it only on the upper layers. Remember, to respire aerobically. Now these hyphae, they grow upwards. These erect hyphae growing upwards, okay, with a round knob-like structure. The hyphae develop upwards, grow upwards, erect hyphae, and they have a rounded knob-like head. So these erect hyphae growing upwards are called sporangiophores. Okay, now the rounded head on the sporangiophore bears spores. Spores are the reproductive structures in the bread mold. Now these spores, the sporangium, the rounded head of the sporangiophore called sporangium, actually holds the spores. Spores are produced there. Now when they mature, the sporangium bursts. When the sporangium bursts, the spores, like tiny specks or tiny particles, they get scattered. Fine, and they fall on some substratum, then they start taking food from them and growing on it as a new mycelium. What is mycelium? Now hyphae doesn't stay as just like a one single rhizopus. There are branches which network of hyphae that grows on the substratum. That network of hyphae is called mycelium. Okay, so the knobbed head is called sporangium, in which the spores are present. Now let us see what happens when any sporangium bursts. So let us draw some spores inside first. So when the sporangium bursts, what happens? The spores get scattered. Okay. And then they grow. So then they go and get dispersed in the air, and if they fall on a fresh substratum, they will start producing mycelium and grow as a new individual. Like bacteria, fungi can also be useful as well as harmful. Okay, we already know that we eat kind of fungus. So here I have listed out the usefulness and harmfulness. The usefulness, Moschella and Agaricus, these are the two types of fungus which can be eaten. They are edible. Okay, they are a very important source of food. Now coming to yeast, I have already said, explain how yeast is used in the bakeries to make bread or naan that you enjoy, kulcha. In everything, the yeast is added to make that dough rise. Fine. As decomposers like bacteria, so they also act as decomposers, that is breaking up the complex organic compound in the soil into simple form so that they can be part of the soil again. Okay, and therefore reduce pollution. So it also acts as a decomposer. Penicillium notatum. This is a kind of fungus which is used to make a very strong antibiotic called penicillin. So the antibiotic penicillin is made out of with using fungus Penicillium notatum. Mucor is a fungus which is used to ripen cheese. Even penicillium is also used to ripen cheese. Now these are the usefulness of fungus. A harmfulness of fungus. Spoilage of food. If you leave the food outside, as I told you, if you leave the bread outside, the bread mold will grow on it. So if the food is left outside, because of the heat, the temperature, the fungus will grow and the moisture in the food. But if you keep in the refrigerator, because of the range of the temperature being very low, they cannot grow in the food that is kept in the refrigerator. Okay, so spoilage of food is harming, isn't it? And if you have such kind of food, then you will be suffering from food poisoning, diseases, the stomach infections. Okay, now there are particular kind of fungus which infect the crops. So they also destroy the crops when they infect the crops. They also cause diseases in human beings. Lots of lung infections, the skin infection occur because of the fungus growing on it. Okay, the athlete's foot is a common skin infection seen if the toes are not wiped every day after bath, or if sweat is allowed to accumulate or stay between your toes, then the fungus might start growing there, and the disease called athlete's foot is occurs. Okay, ringworms are also, if you don't wipe your body after bath nicely, or sweat, you do not wash off with the soap on your body nicely, the moisture remains or any dirt remains, the fungus will start growing on the skin and they grow as a rounded patch. Okay, that is the ringworm infection. So therefore we need to be careful that we take care of ourselves, as it is the government is also spreading awareness because of the virus outside. Okay, and apart from that, it should be a habitual thing that you need to wipe yourself dry after taking bath, especially the back of the ear, the between your fingers, between your toes. Okay, so that no infections or disease occurs. Okay.